So, uh, kind of change it up a little bit to actually, I don't know, have something different not every single time, but sometimes, because maybe even you're getting bored of, how the scenery is looking like or how it is actually somehow, somehow made or whatsoever. And to just see now, it's a little bit late today. I'm quite sorry for that. I do not know why this is sometimes, but I do hope it's not bothering you too much. Really nice that I do forget everything that I should be doing. So now everything is quite. What the fuck? Yeah, should be okay like this. I hope the audio quality is still good. I hope everything is fine. I hope nothing is broken, which is unfortunately not quite. Yeah, yeah, like ordinary, sometimes it's actually like, okay, everything is broken. And I do think this actually happened to me around 2 times, to be honest. 2 times where I actually had to either re-record the whole episode or actually delete it and do something else. And fortunately, the second one, so actually recording it, or actually the first one, did went well. And also the deleting thing, it wasn't just an episode that I was quite proud of, to be honest. It was just an episode that was quite like, yeah, just to make it, it wasn't something special, and it definitely was nothing that somehow was good, I would say, but perfectionism is total bullshit, besides the whole fact. Nice that you can't actually see it. I'm sorry, now you can see it. Actually move a little bit. Actually sit up a little bit and do it a little bit more away from me, and actually maybe turn it so that I'm actually somehow in the center. Do it a little bit nearer to me. Okay. Even though you do somehow can see the screen of my phone. Can you now? Yeah, you can, but I think it's okay. And to not lose any more minutes, any more time of yours and of mine, I do think it is quite clear for the YouTube viewers what I'm just going to go through, but nevertheless, I'm just going to talk about it. We are actually going through Linchpin again, so from Seth Godin. This might be, and I think it is, the last episode, so do quite enjoy it if you've liked the book, and I will enjoy it as well, because it actually was quite a great book, I would say. Some of these things, and I do just know that the original book actually was way better, I think it's always the thing with quite old books. Some of the books are actually just summarized pretty accurate and pretty detailed. So in these cases, I do just have to say, okay, I do think that this is quite the same as the book, but I think Linchpin isn't quite. It's definitely summarized, relatively detailed, but I do think the real book and the original book is just something completely different. This is totally something that I have seen with This Is Marketing by Seth Godin as well, which I've been talking about here on the podcast as well. And in this book, which I'm actually quite reading right now, and I actually started today again, because I kind of lost the whole thing of reading, I do not quite. The only time when I'm just pretty much able to read is actually... Can I? Somehow weird, isn't it? The only time where I can pretty much read is in the train, and because I didn't have any mobile data left, to be honest, which was, first of all, not quite good, because I haven't been able to engage with the people on Instagram and other social media platforms for a little bit, but which totally gave me the chance of actually, or the possibility of actually, just taking the reading again and just doing it a little bit. Just doing it once more, and it was great. Today was actually, unfortunately, the last and the first day I actually read, because today I should get my mobile data back, even a little bit more, which is great from the guys or my provider or whatsoever it is called. But it was quite great. I pretty much enjoyed it, and it really helped me with the posts that are coming tomorrow as well. This is one of the things or one of the reasons why I would say that actually reading a bit every singular day could help me, because it will definitely help me with creating the content and just having more to talk about as well, maybe. But yeah, what I initially wanted to say is that I've been going through this marketing on this channel and or on this podcast as well. But the book itself is completely something different and is completely something more valuable, I would say, as well. But yeah, we're going ahead with Linchpin, with the last episode of Linchpin. And if you are interested in Linchpin from Seth Godin as well, just check out the other episodes, and I do hope you're just getting something out of it. So chapter 11, the 7 abilities of a linchpin. Here's what will make you indispensable. The first thing is creativity, original and useful. Unique creativity requires domain knowledge. The creativity must be focused. Delivering unique creativity, you must ship. Which was actually something that we have been talking about, I think, 2 episodes ago, or actually last episode, I do not remember. So basically, it is pretty important for Seth Godin that you should actually ship what you're doing, quite delivering it, just putting it out there, because he says that even though you're trying to produce art, it is not art until you actually ship it or distribute it. Today it got really easy. You can just put it on Instagram, you can put it on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever your target audience is or is living, just publish it there. Then you're just doing your art or your website or, your podcast as well. But, podcast is a little bit limiting at my point of view, because you can only just, pretty much do things that are not quite visual. Managing a situation or organization of great complexity when it's impossible to follow a manual, linchpins step in. Which is actually also one of the things he said that I'm quite recalling right now. I don't know why, I think, but most often it is like you really know the moments and really know the moments of your life where emotions were involved. And if you're just thinking back to all these things that you just can remember and can just recall, it has always something to do with any emotions, whether it's being sad, whether it's being happy, or whether it's being, I don't know, whatever. Just quite always, I would say. I would just even go with always. Always, it's like there are some emotions involved, and strong emotions. Or like, you do have emotions every singular day, but in these certain moments, they're just so into your brain because you're kind of connecting something with it, and it's emotions. For me, it's definitely, I don't know, what do I recall right now? Some girl I met 2 years ago, actually. What else? Other things, but I've seen, and I've just, took the test myself quite. It is always like there are emotions involved, and which is pretty funny, because you can't even remember the day after it. Most often, sometimes it's definitely something like, okay, the day before was great, and the day afterwards was just, also some kind of great, and so therefore you're recalling them because of this special day, because, through the special day the other days got somehow involved, or somehow just also good or great or special. Leading customers, inspiring staff, providing deep domain knowledge with smart decisions and generous contributions, processing and unique talent. As a linchpin, you need to have a superpower that is difficult to replace. So either get all the other ones or get the best in the world at your unique talent. So either get all the other ones or get the best in the world at your unique talent. Which is definitely something interesting, because it seems to be, I think it was standing in Think and Grow Rich, which is actually, I think, one of the first books that I've ever gone through. So they're the first non-fiction books, not like I have been, starting reading a few quite years ago. No, but it was actually one of the first non-fictional books that I've read in English, besides George Orwell, 1984, which is definitely a great book. I pretty enjoyed it. And I, to be honest, had to read it for school, and I pretty much was the only one, because I had to afterwards take a presentation on it. But it was great. I enjoyed it, even though, through the whole process of reading it, which I kind of wasn't just used to, even though I liked the book, I just had to somehow switch to the actual audiobook of it, and then actually, listening to the audiobook and, simultaneously reading it, which is great. I totally enjoyed it, because I do think how should I say? It kind of feels for me like it's not that boring or not that much of an effort for somebody to actually go through it while actually listening to the audiobook. But the thing is, unless it isn't free, the audiobook itself, it is quite shitty, because you would have to buy both things, and this is just definitely nothing good for your money. Definitely not. But what I initially wanted to say, for fuck's sake, he said that you should actually have a skill or be so skillful in a skill or be so talented that nobody can so easily just replace you. And or that, besides that, that you should also manage and organize situations that are pretty complex and where there's no quite map or manual. And he actually explained it a little bit about as well. He was telling me about, or he was telling you or us, whatever you're just thinking about. He was telling us about why you actually why there is no map. There is often no map. There is no map to success, not like an exact map. Sometimes there are guidelines, but there's definitely not a map. Or map to, getting in good shape. There's definitely somehow guidelines on how you can get in good shape that you have to follow or somehow follow, but there is not quite a map. And I could go through it as well to just not explain it in maybe a little shitty way. So I hope I'm not. But there was actually, I think, one of the only parts of this whole thing with the picture. And I do hope that I'm quite finding it relatively quickly. Anxiety, yeah. So there is no map, but that's also the great news. The reason why art is valuable is precisely because nobody can tell you how to do it, and that's definitely true. And I think this is also the thing with actually having situations or being in situations where there is no manual, because you are the only person, you might be the only person who can deliver on this great and complex situation because you have the ability to and or the talent to. Or whatever, whatever it's just complex situation, or whatever it is about, quite organizing something, whatever it is, it just has to be like you are doing it because there is no manual and nobody but you would actually be able to do it. Quite. Possessing a unique talent as a linchpin, you need to have a superpower that is difficult to replace. So either all the other ones or get the best in the world at your unique talent. So I actually think I'm just losing the point all the fucking time today. Quite interesting. I don't know why. But actually, Henry Ford from Think and Grow Rich, so he was named in Think and Grow Rich, was actually one of these people who actually didn't know much by himself, but he was great in pursuing people and talking to people and dealing with people, and so he was able to really get all the good people and all the just great people at their tasks and actually let them work for him. And this was somehow his success statements, his success formula, because he didn't know much, so he quite just let other people work for him that knew much and that were good. And of course, you have to be amazing at what you do. If all you can do is the task and you're not in a league of your own at doing the task, you're not indispensable. Chapter 12, when it doesn't work. I absolutely love that Seth Godin gives us a badly needed word of caution. Before you self-appoint yourself as the artist and go pointing fingers at your boss, know that it's very likely your boss think you're not contributing as much as you can. That you, because it's somehow italic and I should have, a little bit pointed out vocally. So I just reread again. So before you self-appoint yourself as the artist and go pointing fingers at your boss, know that it's very likely your boss thinks or your boss think you are not contributing as much as you could. And I do understand this, because even though I do quite not understand this to some kind of another degree, because a lot of people just, go against having a boss and just, being self-employed and, having your own business is the only chance you're gonna make something and whatsoever, which is total shit. Because I always just give the example with Tim Cook. Tim Cook himself isn't owning Apple, as I know, I hope I'm right there. He's quite only working for Apple. Even though he's just, the highest person in Apple there is, he's earning fucking 18 million a year. 18 million a year only through being a CEO of an Apple, or of a company, or quite just being an employee of a company, which is amazing. Which is 18. No, fuck it. Which is 1.5 fucking million a month. If you divide it by 12, divided by 14, it's 1.2 fucking million. And it is not also true, and it is also true, your boss will not give you all the freedom of this world because, well, you gotta earn it first. Part of your work is indeed earning the trust first and selling your plans to those around you and above you. See Extreme Ownership for more on leading up the chain of command. Extreme Ownership was an incredibly great book. I actually started the book, but I somehow lost it because I've already told you the story somewhere in, I think in one of the latest episodes, not quite from yesterday, but also I think this week or last week actually, so the chances are pretty high. Because I actually started to read it quite illegally, because I somehow downloaded it to my Kindle, and I was like, I quite do not want to just pay for it, because I didn't want to spend the money, even though it was books, and even though it was quite knowledge, and even though it was quite an investment. And so one of the first books, and most of the books I've read quite for free, because you can, and this is the problem, I would say. Actually, to be honest, I think one of the first books that I've ever read which were free was Crushing It from Gary Vee. No, not really. I think it was the second one or something. It was definitely one of the first ones, or first-her ones, whatever you want to call it. And I didn't quite enjoy it, to be honest. I quite find it like, even though, I do not know, maybe it would be differently if I'm just reading it right now, even though I could be just a little bit primed, because I do just enjoy just Gary Vee himself and his content and what he puts out into the world. And so therefore I would just be more likely to enjoy what I'm reading than before without actually knowing him. And actually through this I actually just, got used to actually just loving him and just believing in what he's saying and all this great stuff. This was actually the thing, I think. But the book itself, I don't know. Maybe I'm just viewing it today in another perspective, because I do have more knowledge and I do have more experience right now than I had before, which may just play into me just being more empathetic what he's writing in the book. But Extreme Ownership was pretty great. I enjoyed the first 50, 100 sites or something. It was great. It was totally great. I highly enjoyed it, and I would also highly suggest you that you're going through it. I actually did an episode on it, or a few episodes on it actually. Maybe you can find them if you just put in Extreme Ownership or Jocko Willink, which is the actual author of this book, besides another guy, but I always just kind of lose him in my mind, and I always just only remember Jocko. He's just a gigantic guy, he's just so fucking pumped and, whatsoever. It's just amazing. And, he's also just a pretty inspiring person. Because if you're just thinking about it, Extreme Ownership is basically a book about Jocko Willink and, his friends, and he being the leader of a, what is it called? Navy SEALs group or Navy SEALs command or whatever it is actually called. I don't know. And it's just amazing because he tells a lot of stories from war, and there you can totally see or just totally somehow feel that war is something that's not great, and war being something that's definitely not something that you want to go through on yourself. Even though I do think that, if there were pictures or more pictures, which is also good because there wouldn't be then too much space for the text, that you could a little bit more just, emphasize it, or just feel it as well. Because, I don't know, nevertheless. Anyways, the possibility of failure. Will we go through it? Yeah, we will go through it, definitely. The possibility of failure. And now that we have the freedom to create, we must embrace the fact that not all creations are equal and some people aren't going to win. It might happen indeed, things don't work out, and that's okay. What do you do then? You do more art. You give more gifts, learn from what you do, and then do more. People committed to their art never stop giving, because the alternative, giving up and becoming an old school cog, is not appealing. So you do more. Trying and failing is better than merely failing. And failing is just another way of learning, I think it was actually Marcus Aurelius, however you want to pronounce it, in which way. I think he was actually the guy who was saying there, there's first of all, something like this. It's not quite the exact same quote, but first, there's winning, and second, there's learning. So you either are winning or you are learning, whatever you're doing. And the learning is just, if you can't see it, which I do not think you are, it is quite correlated to failing, because failing is just another way of learning. If you're failing, you just know, okay, this is not the way you should go, and just do something else. And then this is also not working. Then okay, this won't work, this won't just get me to my goal, so I'll do just something else. And if you just view it in this way, and if you just have a little bit of a different perspective on what failing is actually like, and that failing is actually nothing bad, even though a lot of people have told you maybe, even if it's your teachers, if it's your parents, if it's whatever or whomever, failing is not something that's bad. Failing is something that you learn by. Even though I do have to say, just making the same mistake over and over and over again might not actually be the best thing you can do. But I don't know. Failing is just something that's I quite do not want to say great, because it's not great. You shouldn't go for failing all the time. You shouldn't go for it consciously. Failing is something that will happen on your way and will happen on my way as well. And I think you just should deal with it, and should be able to deal with it, and somehow view it in a positive way, and just be like, okay, this is learning. This is only learning, and this is my way to getting to my goal, because if I'm not trying out enough stuff, I might never get to my goal. But this is always the debate. You can always just, view things in different perspectives, and whether it's a good one or it's a bad one, and this just really determines what your life looks like, at my point of view as well, because you can always just focus on the bad, and you will get the bad, and I think you will feel bad as well, because you're only seeing the bad, and I think this would make sense. But you could also just go for the happy things and the good things and the joy in life, just most of the time at least. And if you're just doing this, you most of the time just see the happiness and the joy and what's good about life. And what you then can do is just feeling good about it, because there's nothing else that can make you negative. This is something that I've learned, fortunately, to be honest. Something that I've learned quite late, to be honest, and which I quite learned to actually going through and doing these videos and or these podcast episodes, which is great for me, because I'm quite feeling like I'm learning every single day, even though I don't feel it. I quite know it, in the macros or in the big picture, I'm actually just learning every single day. In the really micro, so actually the day itself, it might feel like I'm not actually learning anything this day, or I might even just go back into, Stone Age and be a fucking dump. No, just joking, but it doesn't feel like I'm learning every single day. Definitely not, but I think that's normal. Some days are a little bit better, and some days are good. And there's not a bad day, because there's just a day you can learn a lot from. Because failing and having a bad day is quite the same thing. Which is always also something that I've learned, which is Also great, I think. So the real life application. Become an artist. Here's a potentially revolutionary way to apply Linchpin by Seth Godin. Ask yourself, are you in love with your work? Are you doing art? Yes, great. No, do yourself and this world a favor and change it. Embrace anxiety, it works. I absolutely love the idea of not giving it to anxiety. Take the example of the keys, checking twice before you close the door or making sure they're in your pocket for 10 times while you're out. They seem small things, but it's the thoughts behind it which are corrosive. I did try to embrace the anxiety and not check again, and it did work. So I absolutely recommend it. So to maybe just give you a point or give you just something to think about, because this was actually something that's from the other episodes or the other just parts of this summary that we have gone through already. He gave an example or he just said that anxiety is just the fear about having fears, which, may be the truth. I don't know the exact definition of anxiety, but having anxiety or just being anxious, actually, I know this, yeah, being anxious is something bad. And he explained it with actually these moments when you're just, going home, or you're just going out of your doors, you're just leaving your home, and you check 14 fucking times if your keys are there, even though you just know that you've just took them before you went out of the door and just put it into your bags or put it into your pockets or wherever you put these fucking keys, you know it. But still, you're checking quite 10, 14, 15, 17, 100 times if the keys are actually there. And by not doing it, it seems to help. And the author of the summary actually says as well, it helps because you somehow embrace the anxiety. But let's go to the cons of the book. Fear of not fitting in learned at school. The fear of not fitting in learned at school, whatever this actually means. I do not know if this is actually a right sentence. I don't know. When I hear of people blaming human behavior on schools, churches, or society, I always need to resist the urge to disqualify them. Humans are complex, and pinpointing this or that as a single culprit rarely seem the best explanation. Viktor Frankl on generalizations, I believe indeed for the fear of not fitting in is not just learned in school, but also a major human innate driver. So I believe, from Viktor Frankl, which is actually the author of Man's Search for Meaning, which was an incredible book. I've also unfortunately listened to the audiobook version illegally somehow. I don't want to say illegally, but I just did it for free. Somehow. It was still a great book, and I just pretty enjoyed it, even though I do have to say the audiobook wasn't that great of actually me being able to understand that much, because it was not quite fast, I think. Yeah, maybe too fast as well. So I definitely like podcast and, speaking speed, and not maybe like the reading speed. I don't know. I don't fucking know. So I believe indeed the fear of not fitting in is not just learned in school, but also a major human innate driver. And I'm not the only one. Artists and convenient descriptions. Linchpins and artist descriptions feel a bit like reading the horoscope. Most people would be nodding their heads, thinking it's exactly them. It's very convenient somehow. Yet that's also the beauty of Linchpin by Seth Godin. You just love reading it, and it can be helpful. We remember more and are more moved by well-crafted words. So it's not a con, but its greatest asset if you don't just nod your head, but also let it spur you to action. Yeah, I think it's always quite a thing with the books or the informations you're just gathering. It's just potential power. And all these people who are just being like, knowledge is power and whatsoever, I think at my point of view are wrong. And to be honest, this is a thought that I have from Tony Robbins. I do just quite realize that the whole thinkings that I have and the whole informations that I have are quite from other persons. To be honest, it's rather through, reading things, or just through listening to things, or to just knowing the people, or just somehow, I don't know, getting information from the people, or what they are thinking and what the worldviews of other people are, and I'm quite adapting it because I'm believing in them. And I quite only see that This is just what I'm consisting of. But I think it's not something bad. But Tony Robbins said that knowledge is only potential power, because you can have the most knowledge of all the people out there, but if you're not just using it and taking action, it is only potentially power, or potential power, because you're not using it. You could use it if you want to, but you're not doing it. The review. Linchpin by Seth Godin is one of those rare books combining a great reading experience, great insight, and a motivating force to take action. 2 more things I would like to highlight which are key. Master artist. Learning to overcome the resistance is indeed critical. Read more on critical identity mindsets. So this is just a link to spur you to action. Just one thing I would like to add to the puzzle: make sure you're also focusing on delivering and sharing great art. I don't know. I wouldn't say this is a great advice, to be honest, because great art is so subjective. What is great art? The first thing is, what is art? Art is by far one of the most subjective things you can just be talking about. But great art, I think it's not existing. There's art and there's not art, and whether it's great art is just also subjective, and just only going for just making valuable content and, just having a high quality. So please do not get me wrong, make valuable content, but do not be like, I want to have the highest quality on the field. I do want to make, the highest quality in this and that and whatsoever. Quality is something subjective. And if you're really going for quality, and if you want to, it's a bad idea, because your 10 on a scale from 1 to 10, actually on a quality scale, might be a 5 at somebody else's scale. So it's just something very subjective. And it could definitely be the thing with all the people that are actually watching or viewing your content. Only because you are thinking, okay, this is a 10 or a 9 or a 5 or a 7, or it's just enough. They could also be thinking about it as like, okay, this is a 1 for me, or this is a 2 for me, or a 3. I don't know. It could definitely be the case. The thing is, I do have to say, at my point of view, there is some kind of a base for actually having somehow, how should I say, maybe content that's not quite fucking with the people. Like, that's not quite making them angry or letting them feel like you're just, I do just search for the right words. That you're making fun of them, basically, because you can just put a lot of shit, even though going for the quality is just something you shouldn't do. There is something that's complete shit, and you shouldn't do real shit. You know what I mean? I do think, there is a base, and I think just, doing the base, but not just being crippled by actually trying to be way too perfective and way too, whatever. Just quality is something subjective. I think this is all I have to say. The lizard brain. I was surprised to read Seth Godin stopped writing Linchpin 12 times. He says it was his lizard brain stopping him, and that was the exact reason he needed to resume every time and finish the book. He knew he couldn't give it to the resistance. I would urge you to reflect on that. Here is a world-famous author, rich and experienced, and he was still afraid. It goes to tell us that nobody is above and beyond the resistance, not even the people telling you how to overcome it. So don't worry, it's not just you who's afraid. We all are, and it's my struggle, it's your struggle, it's our struggle. But we keep going anyway. Welcome to the club, which is, I think, definitely important. To be honest, my voice is pretty fucked today, and I'm quite not feeling that good. I somehow need to have a little bit more rest, I guess. Totally would make sense, but I'm still doing it, and I would always be doing it. I haven't been making any stop. I haven't been not uploading one episode for one singular day. Sometimes I fucked it up with the podcast, to be honest, because I actually uploaded them after 12 a.m. midnight. So therefore it was just quite the next day, and so on that day there were actually 4 episodes or somewhat. Which is a little bit bad for the statistics and for just showing people. but I will keep going, and this is also one of the problems that I'm having. I will just keep going, whether I see something in return or not, somehow. Maybe I will see someday that there wasn't something in what I'm doing right now. There wasn't a future in what I'm doing right now. This could just be the case. And I think actually my girlfriend and some other dude asked me, what would I do, or what I would do if, I just came to the conclusion, okay, or something happens that I'm not quite able to do the self-development thing, or on this channel, or have to delete everything, or everything gets deleted, or something. What I would do, and I would just do something else. I would say I wouldn't just be like, I do want to stop, and I do want to just, I don't know, give up and just be a worker and just do whatever the fuck I would do. I don't know. I would just do something else. If this is not working for me, or this is just something that is not possible to do anymore, I would do something else. And if this is then not working, I will do something else. I guess the problem is just talking about it is way easier than actually just doing it then afterwards. But I'm putting out 10 fucking posts a day, and a video, and the podcast, and I'm trying to engage with the people, and I'm just actually going to school for fucking 40 hours a week. I'm not going easy with myself. Definitely not. And I think this is definitely something that I can say. I'm not going easy on me, or with me, or whatever. The down rating note, I demoted it from 5 stars to 4 after realizing it takes most of its ideas from The Art of War. Which is, I think, I don't know. You can think about it like, okay, this is bad, but it doesn't have to be like this. I do think that most of these books outside are somehow, that these people somehow gathered informations elsewhere. Whether it's from other books or whether it's from other people who they were speaking to. Especially Tony Robbins and Unshakable is only just consisting of he interviewing actually the richest people on earth. And he was just picking their minds, and therefore he just pretty much, I'm fucking sorry, he was just, quite telling their experiences and what they had to say. And, definitely he tried it out as well, but at the end, it was quite their advice, which is nothing bad, because you can learn, he profits from it, and the other people who gave him the just experience and, whatever tips that were also happy, I think. So I'm quite feeling good for that. I don't know. But yeah, with that being said, actually a little bit of a longer video today, which is nothing bad, which is good. To be honest, having something like a little bit a longer video once in a while, actually just not always just being stuck at the 30-minute mark. Something I quite seem to do nowadays, or seem to do in the past few months, actually. I don't know. Maybe it's just working for me. But yeah, I hope you get the best health, wealth, happiness, and success. But still, don't don't forget to actually give back to the people that maybe gave something to you or not. That doesn't matter. Just give something back to the people, and also think about your legacy and how you want to be remembered. Do you want to really be remembered as such a bad guy as you might be right now? As such an asshole, or someone that is quite not quite dealing in a good way with the people? Do you really want it, or do you really want to be remembered as someone who is actually, or who was actually, one of the nicest person one has met, or one could have met? And I do think you're just really willing to go for the second one. But yeah, just think about this, and I'll see you the next time.